What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerd Out. The new One Piece chapter has dropped. It's a little late. I was waiting on that TCB. They took their sweet time, but it's out, it's popping. We're going to talk about it. But I don't have much to talk about after the chapter. It's been a real busy week, so I will probably not have anything to update outside the chapter itself. Now, we are going to be on break for One Piece, so I think I am going to try and have something planned for next week, as I do have some topics on the back burner. Of course, if you have not caught up to the latest chapters or episodes, please know that there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
Okay, One Piece 1160, the God Valley Incident. Just by the title alone, you know it's gonna be heat. But let's start off with the cover story. Yamato has already made it back to the Flower Capital, or at least the shrine overlooking the Flower Capital. Right now we're at the Odin Shrine, where Odin and I believe a few of the scabbards probably are enshrined, and maybe even like Odin's family, like Lady Toki. And it has like a nice overlook of Wano itself. Now I don't see Ulti or Page 1 here, so I'm not sure where they ended up at, and I'm wondering if they're going to pop back up or if they're visiting something where they may have stepped off to, because they've been with Yamato the entire cover story. Like since they got saved, they've been with Yamato. So the fact that they're all of a sudden not here is interesting. You know what would be cool is if they were doing something for Hanafuda. But into the chapter itself, we get an immediate, we start off with some interesting details. So we have the announcer announcing to all the Celestial Dragons, everyone who's here, that they have the Davy clan. They have them all lined up, and it's more people than I expected. Initially, I thought that like maybe it was just like Teach, his mom, and maybe like one or two others. They have probably about 10 people here that are apparently from the Davy clan. And like give all the Celestials just shouting, throwing things at them. And they talk about how they've been hated basically since their ancestors' time. So essentially Void Century time. And they're also like, are they Buccaneers too? So I honestly want to know what level of education the Celestial Dragons have. Because you would think to some degree, they're all pretty much idiots. Some of them do seem to know like quite a bit. And I think it even goes back to Charlotte's sister, I think Sheila, where she was beginning to question things. Like it seems like some of the Celestial Dragons have a bit more, I don't want to say intelligence, but they're more capable of critical thinking. But in here we see people like asking, are they Buccaneers too? So they know about that heritage. And I mean, all in all, they're all being terrible, but I'm just curious about how educated they are in certain matters. And we have Saturn talking to Garling, and he's talking about how basically he found a really good spot, and Garling says it was all up to fate. And I honestly wonder what he encountered here, because I don't think they would initially just say, hey, we're from the Davy clan. So essentially someone sold them out, and I would wonder if it was Shanks' mom. Otherwise, how did Garling get that information? So they have them all lined up, and it looks like there's a different assortment of like races here, because you see some giant men in the background, and you see people of varying sizes. You see Teach, what I presume is Teach's mom. And like Teach doesn't look anything like his mom. Like he got basically all of his dad's looks. But there's a very unique perspective where we see Teach looking out at Celestial Dragons who are screaming at him, and they all just look like monsters. And this is kind of, it's building a case for Teach and what he's currently doing, because he may have more planned than just taking over the world. Basically, he sees that because of his lineage, people are attempting to eradicate him. So outside of existing, which is a common theme we saw with Ace, we saw with Robin, when people exist, they are treated as criminals. And so Blackbeard's probably won his get back for all this. We cut over to the shack where Dragon and Shanks' mom was at, and Shanks' mom is basically using her last breath to tell Dragon to save her kids. She says it's too late for her, but she wants her kids to be raised with someone with a warm heart. And as she passes, Dragon heads out, presumably to find the kids. While talking to himself, basically, he's trying to encourage himself to go do something to help. Like, he's got to get out there and do something. He can't just stand around. And then the hunt starts, or at least the part of the hunt where the rabbits, but basically like the slaves, are told to start running. This is the point where they run out, they hide, and hope they don't get shot in the head. And now they really give them the idea that if they last for 3 weeks without being hunted, that they'll be let go. Obviously, this is a lie, but you can imagine being in this scenario and hanging on to any morsel of hope you could get. Like that's all they have to hang on to. So of course they're gonna believe in that, even though, I would imagine in a lot of their hearts they know it's not gonna happen. And we pretty much just get a montage of the celestial dragons just hunting people down one by one and killing them. Like you have them shooting whole families, mom, dad, son, with honestly nothing but a smile on their face, and it's really sick, to be honest. You have like a husband and wife begging not to be killed. They get shot anyway. A really, really dark time. And it turns out that they're actually like broadcasting this back to the Holy Land. So pretty much the Celestials, anybody who didn't go out to the actual fight, they're watching it back almost like they watched Marineford and Sabondi. It's basically the giant TVs. And everyone's just watching all this crazy nonsense take place. And you get a side tangent with two celestial dragons where they're talking about who they bet on. And one of them says how Shepherd for the clan, which I believe is Summer's house, and then Gunko for the solos. And we've been getting a lot of Gunko hype. I'm not gonna lie. Like they mentioned Gunko a lot. Like even last chapter, they mentioned that with Gunko, they might have a chance at winning. And then one of the other celestial dragons mentions that basically you can choose whatever you want, but there's only one god steel among the knights. And there's a translation that says that the god steel is essentially a weapon. So there's a specific weapon that someone has, which I'm imagining to be Garling, which probably gives them some buff stats. We get a look at Gunko killing people, and she's doing it crazy efficiently. And like her outfit here, like her style here is way better than what she has now. I'm not gonna lie. The hair looks better, the fit is better, all of it just better. I wish this is how she still looked, because this is boss. But she's taking out people left and right, and she has her arrow powers. So these are not from Emu. And I think we kind of expected that because we did get like a Devil Fruit description. It was just odd that it seemed like Emu used something similar in like the black arrows, but it looks like that's just Gunko's ability. And now I think we got an update from some side material that Gunko was a saint. I know it wasn't initially given when she was introduced, but even now they call her Saint Gunko. She's from House Manmeyer. We cut over to Shaki, and we have some people talking about how basically she's lucky to be Garling's wife. And of course, she's not cool with that. So she's kind of just sitting there vibing. We cut over to Summers. He's harassing a child in the tree, and he has like a bunch of thorns at the bottom so that the child falls in the thorns. Again, really messed up stuff this chapter. Like these people are different levels of sick. And like Summers ends up knocking the kid out of the tree, and as the kid's falling, his dad steps in, tries to catch him. I think they honestly end up both falling into the thorns, and they probably both die. Because like you don't really see what happens with them. You just see like a blood shoot up and a rustle. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Meanwhile, Summers is just being Summers and not being bothered by it. We cut over to Dragon, and he's looking at a bunch of these dead bodies on the ground, basically all of the targets. And he's having a rough time. I think he's about to like throw up just from seeing all this. Like he was not expecting any of this. Also, he mentions that his entire platoon was executed. So basically they brought them out here. They had them run the fake training course, which is essentially tranquilizing everybody, getting them ready for the hunt, and then they killed them all. And this was like a planned killing, so that one of the other higher ups is like, okay, so you got everybody, right? And the Marine commander is like, yep, we did. But in his inner thoughts, he mentions that Dragon got away somewhere. And as a turn of fate, we see that Dragon ends up where Kuma, Ginny, and Ivankov are. So it's like, it's a different perspective from what we saw in the Kuma flashback of God's Valley, or basically seeing like what's happening on the back end. And it looks like there's a celestial dragon that was about to shoot them as they were giving a speech. Now Dragon ends up shooting them instead with the tranquilizer dart, so it passes them out. But it doesn't look like he engages in anything. I don't know that they notice anything happens because we didn't see that in Kuma's flashback. I'm imagining he took them out and kind of made his way elsewhere. And as we cut to more celestial dragons hunting down people, we get a giant explosion off the coast, and it's the Rocks Pirates. They done showed up. And then we get this really awesome double page spread of everybody pulling up. I like the way that they're doing the naming scheme, because they're doing it all the names in, I don't want to say like 3D. It's not like the flat introduction boxes. It's a lot cooler than that. It's almost like a plaque that kind of rises off of the page. It's really cool. They pull up and Rox is like, all right, they got Shocky, they got treasure, they got devil fruits. Don't kill nobody yet. Get the treasure. We're gonna get out of here and we'll divvy it up back at home. And like this is very similar to the spread that we got, I think, in Kuma's flashback, where we see all the Rox pirates. There are probably some that we didn't see before that we see now. Like, I don't think we actually even saw, well, we definitely didn't see Rox there. I don't know if we saw Silver Axe or the fisherman in the back. I don't think we saw them. I don't think we saw Strusen either, to be honest. But we got everybody squatted up. And it's kind of crazy because you have 3 giant Yonkos in the back with Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido. And then you have like Shiki and Silver Axe who are still arguing. Like, you can see that they're staring at each other and having a menacing face. And then you have like Captain John, you have Gloriosa, Stussy, Strusen. Whole squad. And this also clarifies that no one else really died with Don Marlowe. It was just him. And then we get some panels from all the Rox pirates, basically. Like, they're all talking about what's going to happen with Shocky. You have a bunch of them talking about whoever gets to her first wins her. And you got Whitebeard being like, I'm just here to help out. Although, if she falls for me, I'm not going to be mad. Which, of course, makes Stussy upset. And then you have Gloriosa still trying to impress Roger. And of the interesting ones, Strusen mentions that Ochaku didn't leave the island, which further confirms that he's the one that sold them out in the first place. So he stayed back on Hachinosu, and I'm wondering if this is, if they like, the incident that happens on God Valley, if after it happens, I wonder if all of these pirates here just don't go back to Hachinosu. Because if I'm being honest, probably, I'm not gonna say most, I would say there's a good 5 or 6 pirates here outside of Rox that could take Ochaku. So if they wanted to go back to Hachinosu, they could. But we also get some banter between Big Mom and Kaido, where Kaido's like looking at Big Mom like, hey, you still got one of those fruits for me, right? Because I think Big Mom said something about giving her kids the fruits. Like, I was like, hey, yo, give me at least one of them. At least one. So they're firing on all their ships. They're pulling up. They ready to go. Their ship pretty much like upheaves all these battleships and stuff. Like, it's a really cool scene where they're crashing into the coast. And all those Celestials are in a panic. Naturally, they're yelling at the Marines, telling them that they got to protect them. If they don't, they're going to get killed, which is crazy because they just killed one of the platoons. So, like, they intentionally weakened themselves, not expecting any of the pirates to show up. So they definitely don't have enough personnel to make sure everybody's safe. As this is happening, Dragon ends up running into Shanks and Shamrock. I don't know how he found them. He just seems to encounter them at some point, and he starts running off with them. And this raises questions because we know that they get separated at some point, right? So something is going to happen here where these two get separated. So Roger pulls up on the other coast. All the Roger pirates jump out. They're ready to go. They're rearing. They out here trying to save Shocky. Garland notices all the chaos and he's like, all right, game's over. I guess we gotta work now. And we get this panel of the Gods Knights. And I'm gonna tell you, these Gods Knights look kind of clean. I don't know how many of these are still in the Gods Knights, considering like this is the Gods Knights of old, 40 years ago. I really like the design of whoever the chick in the back is. Like the different colored hair, the cigar. She looks dope. I like the chick at the bottom next to Garling. She looks dope. Honestly, they all look clean. Even Summers, he looks a lot cooler than he does now. Like, everybody looks really dope. And it's kind of hard to tell because of the way things are shaded, but there's one of the Gods Knights that has the same outfit that Road had on when he was pretending to be Sun God Nika. And I think that's very interesting considering that they're Gods Knights and one of them has the same God outfit on. And so you're having this constant squabble. You got all these pirates fighting all the Marines. You got Whitebeard wiping out people with Shiki. And then we see someone rearing up a cannonball in their hands. None other than Garp the Fist, just chucking cannonballs like baseballs. And so he blows up like part of the island with some of the pirates on it. Probably some of the Marines too, to be honest. And both Rox and Roger look back and like, all right, Garp's here. It's go time. So now we have assembled basically the 3 legends. You got Rox, you got Roger, you got Garp. And you even got Bogard in the corner there. We see him with the fit, we see him with the drip. So this is basically the start of the God Valley incident. We still need so many answers. By the way, this is the end of the chapter and we are on break, so we're gonna be on a cliffhanger for a little while. There are so many things I need answered now. because we've been seeing like a lot of slander on Twitter and like other forums about essentially Garp and Roger stopped Rox from saving his family and stopped Rox from saving slaves. Of course, we know that both Garp and Roger aren't really the type of people that condone that kind of activity, so we need to see what happens here in order to clarify what's going on. Because it does look kind of bad from the standpoint of when Goku said that Garp and Roger fought to save the celestial dragons and their slaves, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Neither of those characters like celestial dragons. So there's obviously more to the story than what we've been given. And while this was a packed chapter, some of it was a bit of recap because we saw this from different angles, right? We've been seeing the God Valley incident from different angles for a while now. And so we're kind of putting pieces together, seeing some things we didn't see, but overall kind of bringing the story together. I think honestly the coolest thing for me is just seeing all the Gods Knights because they look so cool. I want to see them in action. I got to see them fighting people. I'm also wondering how Gods Valley gets wiped off the map because initially we're talking about, maybe they just don't put it on the maps anymore. Did it get Leloucha'd? Did it get Whitebearded? Like what happened to Gods Valley? So there's so many questions. We're just getting started with the incident. We have so much to learn. I'm expecting probably, 2 or 3 chapters on God Valley alone. I would love to have more on God Valley. I just don't think we're going to get, or I should say 2 or 3 chapters on God Valley's, like the altercations, all the fights and everything. I think we're probably going to wrap it up in 2 or 3 chapters. I would love to have more of that, but I don't think we're going to get it just because we're in a flashback and a flashback and a flashback. We have so much to get back to that I think there's only a certain amount of time we can stay here. But a fantastic chapter nonetheless. Like I said, I don't have much to discuss outside of that. It's been real busy. So we're going to end this episode early, but next episode we'll have a cool topic to talk about. Also, don't forget to check out the main channel, get some new content going on over there, and then we'll be having some content on TikTok shortly. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.